Good morning. It's Saturday, and I am back at home after 2 weeks of teaching. And boy, that is a good schedule to be disciplined with. Hard to get things done when you have to leave the house at 7, get back at 5. But boy, that's the regular life of 9 to 5 people, 8 to 5 people. I've been so blessed to have such freedom in my days, my schedule, and great school to help out with. Love them. Thankful. So, uh, right, it's nice to have a good Saturday. Still overcast here a little bit, and kids are around, going here and there. More boys are staying over, hang out with Peter, and they went on a night hike last night. They're practicing their night hiking, so a bunch of kids did this 2-hour hike to the reservoir, the mountains behind our house, and back, just to practice going at night with headlamps and stuff like that. And tonight at our friend's house, there's a princess party with all those little kids you saw a while ago. Lots of little girls. And so I guess they're getting dressed up. So that's fun. And anyway, here is chapter 35. Oh, bring them home, what though their faint desire falter and fail before the piercing sword, or in the wind, or earthquake, or in fire, come to them, conquering Lord. Or in the sound of gentle stillness come, Comforter come, let thought of us be far, not ours the light that leads them safely home, not of a sun or star. Dear Lord of love, so boundless and so deep, that all thy heart could yearn for, accursed. O Lord of love, great shepherd of the sheep, give unto us thy thirst. Okay, it says, the Sadhu and Tiger. From this day forward we were led out in new ways. Does the green valley always open up upon fields which turn to fields of battle? Sometimes among prisoners, sometimes in remote villages, sometimes in the temple towns that stand like little forts under the western hills, sometimes at festivals, different members of our fellowship have had the joy of the soldier on service, and no one who knows what that can be of the divine companionship would exchange it for any other joy. Which of the untold tales will show us least, and the Lord, the doer, most? We have asked ourselves the question as we traveled from point to point over this lately trodden ground, and the story of the Sadhu who is called by his name, though he had not heard of him, comes to mind. Far in the forest that climbed the mountain lived a Sadhu with other Sadhus, one of a company of followers of a noted guru who had many disciples all over the south. The Sadhus come down to the plains, wander from place to place, and return for meditation to their caves on the hill called Mountain of the Great King. Among them was one who was so devout in all his ways, and so ardent in his fasts and austerities, that the Guru called him to his feet and said, Thou art a God-lover, and among the greater gods is one of whom I have heard, called Yeshu. I shall call thee Yeshu Nisan, lover of Yeshu. He did not hear the name Yeshu again until he met Marut, a lately converted herb doctor, who taught him a few sentences of a prayer which he thought of as a charm. It was to the father of Yeshu, who is also called our Father. So his perplexed ears heard, and it began like this: Thou who art in the heavenly world, our Father, thy name be it hallowed. He said the curious sentence over and over, using his Saviite rosary with its 108 berries, mixing the new prayer with the Sanskrit prayers and charms which he had already learned. One day, the quiet of the forest was broken by the big, hearty laugh of a man in a cave, and lover of Yeshu, surprised, went into the cave and made friends with the man who laughed and sang and shouted like a free man, regardless of who might hear. And yet he was not free. He was being hunted. A foolish man, thought lover of Yeshu, when he knew him better, disconcerting and hard to take care of, for he left his tracks uncovered in a queer, casual way. This man, Raj, taught the Sadhu, reading from him from a little book which he carried in a goat-skin bag, and the Sadhu began to understand. Being in earnest to attain this new knowledge, he decided on a 41-day fast. Sitting in the cramped position ordained for meditation, he fasted till he fell into a trance. But him I never saw. It was darkness within. He came out of that fast and the trance with shaken views about various matters. For example, he did not now feel it a sin to take a life, and he wanted a tiger skin. Sadhus sit on deer skin or tiger skin, but they never dream of shooting the deer or tiger themselves. So lover of Yeshu went off to stalk a tiger. He had been a hunter in his youth, but he was not a good shot now. He wounded the tiger, which rushed upon him and got his arm and shoulder beneath its teeth. I knew in that moment, I cannot tell how, but I knew that no one but the Lord Yeshu, of whom Raj had told me, could save me from the tiger, and to him I cried. Then somehow he got his arm free around the beast and shot it. While he was being healed of his wounds, we were brought in touch with him, and he read the Gospel of St. John. Then he came to stay with us, and our hopes kindled. What might not he do for his Lord? But his wanderlust, that fatal wanderlust of the sadhu, would not let him stay long enough to be taught. He would float off without a word. He was there an hour ago. We looked, and he was not there. Here's some more pictures of, what is this? Small boys investigating. Don't be afraid, there aren't any legs. This tigress was shot by a sportsman who stood by Raj in his darkest hour and helped him to save him from taking revenge. Oh my goodness, there are these children, and a tiger is right there. And would you like a banana? Tigress accepts. I'm not sure why the tiger is not so kind. The tiger, I don't know. Why is the tiger sitting there? Is it alive? Okay. Then tales drifted across the plains of a strange sadhu, a lover of Christ who had been heard speaking of him in the mighty temples in the south, in whose innermost halls he had sat, and whose priests were his friends, and we heard of him on the mountains, among the ascetics, steadfastly holding out against their allurements, for they tried with every art they knew to draw him back. Then a tale came of his being worshipped as a god and garlanded with flowers, but this was in Ceylon. How could he be there? He was there. You must buy a ticket. I can go into any train without a ticket, he had told us, and we knew, of course, that he could, for train, motor bus, bullock cart, even steamship seemed to feel alike about holy men. But this talk of the garland of flowers, it was true too. He had prayed for the recovery of a child. It had been granted. The people had wanted to worship him, and they had run to him with flowers, and he had fled. He was at a festival now, near one of our sacred waterfalls, and the money they had poured out into his hands he had used to give a feast to some Christian boys who had gone to see the waterfall. He witnessed, too, his Savior everywhere, and showed to all who would look the marks of the tiger's teeth on his arm. But those same marks seemed to confuse his judgment when baptism was in question. Or it may be that his many facts and rigorous austerities have clouded him a little, so that he cannot understand. Nay, what is need for that? Have I not this? And he touches one of those white scars, or he will say, am I not just now going to enter a period of fasting? I cannot stay for that yet. And his mind, as wandering as his feet, moves him to restlessness, so this is only the first chapter of his story. I have told it partly with the hope that it may lead the thoughts of the reader beyond the fugitive figure of lover of Yeshu to those other wanderers, the sadhus of India, for some of whom a true conversion would mean indeed the piercing of a sword. Okay, and 31 is pavilions and a festival. That's for later. Okay, love you.